President Biden may have dodged criminal charges over special counsel Robert Hur's classified documents report. However, the political implications are off the charts. A New York Times headline: the decision should have been an unequivocal legal exoneration. Instead, it was a political disaster. The New York Post front page: elderly man with a poor memory. The editorial board very blunt: special prosecutor's report proves Joe Biden is unfit to remain president. Even the liberal outlet The Atlantic, with a headline: Biden's age is now unavoidable. Joe Biden looks like he is turning into a statue of Joe Biden. One panicked Democratic lawmaker told NBC it's a nightmare. It weakens President Biden electorally. For Democrats, we're in a grim situation. Gianno Caldwell, Fox News political analyst. David Carlucci, former New York senator. Gentlemen, great to see you. David, this is a tough spot for you to be in, but I come to you first because you're a Democrat. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think this is actually good news for President Biden. If you actually read the 388-page report, it clarifies and makes the distinction between what President Biden did and what President Trump did. And what President Trump did was he obfuscated officials. He lied, had people lie.
If we had an hour show, we could go into the whataboutism that you're doing. But what we're concentrating on right now is the political fallout of this.
Right.
Not what the report found. By the way, the president couldn't even get that right because he was found to have willfully retained classified documents, some of which were top secret.
And
so look, I appreciate the aboutism, but we want to go to the political backlash. Did you see the news conference? I'm going to give you one more shot and then I'm moving on.
Yeah, I did. And I think
the political backlash is what to you?
I don't think there is much of a political backlash. Maybe a couple days of this focusing on ageism. But the reality is that this is a double-edged sword for the GOP. If we're going to talk about gaffes, Donald Trump has almost just as many gaffes as President Biden.
Oh, my goodness.
And the difference is that President Biden can admit a mistake, whereas Donald Trump doubles down all the time. He can never admit a mistake, and I think that's proving its way to the American people.
If you look at the day that each man had, oh my goodness, I don't know what you're looking through, but the pingolins
We're talking about the
beautiful.
report, the 388-page report.
Right.
Yes, it talks about his memory, and it talks about some gaffes, but what they're saying is these are honest mistakes.
May I, please?
Yes, please, Gianno.
Please. Any Democrat, including you, David, that choose to come on this channel or any other channel to defend the president ought to be ashamed of yourself.
To defend the president?
Very, very serious issue. And that special counsel's report says to me that if I owned a Popeye's chicken restaurant, Joe Biden wouldn't be up to the job to be a cashier there. This man has all of our lives in his hand. There's a war in the Middle East right now, which could turn into World War III. Who's there to make the decision? And he's there to make the decision, and he could possibly forget a detail and order his generals to do something to put our lives in jeopardy. We have an open border that terrorists are pouring through. We have drugs that are coming in. We are not in a situation where we can play games with the president of the United States. And the fact that you're sitting here saying that this is an okay situation for him is not the right approach that any patriot, no matter what political party you are a part of, should be saying. It's disappointing to hear you say that, David. It really is.
I'll tell you, the disappointment is on my end to say that we're only going to focus on the key part here that says, oh, he made some mistakes. He did mix up some dates.
You know why we're focused on it? Because your guy that you defend couldn't even take a victory lap. He couldn't do it. He doesn't know how to do it. He was pressed, not even in a hard way, by the reporters in that room, until, of course, he got into a back and forth, as he always does with Peter Doocy. But he was pressed just to, just take that victory lap, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't remember certain things even then. Sisi is not the president of Mexico. We all know that. Look, you can call it a gaffe, but it fits within the line of conversation that we're in.
Disqualifying. This doesn't mean we cancel somebody because they mix up a few names.
Let's just watch it, and then you can react. It is painful to watch.
What this was about was, are there criminal charges?
And I'm going to roll the tape. It is painful to watch. While defending his mental fitness last night, he seemed to confuse, again, two presidents. Watch.
As you know, initially, the president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate to allow humanitarian material to get in. I talked to him. I convinced him to open the gate.
This week, he said he discussed the 2021 Capitol riot with former German Chancellor Helmut Kohl. Kohl died in 2017. Biden told that story not once, not twice, but 3 separate times in the past week. On top of that, he actually met with the Chancellor, Angela Merkel, in 2021. So not only had the other gentleman died, the woman who then took the job he's met with since. Biden also claimed that he had a discussion, and of course, this is really what started some Democrat heads to kind of turn and watch. Those people like Mark Penn, who I know you know, worked in a former White House as a polling expert. 2021, it was a discussion with French President Mitterrand, who died in 1996. Couldn't have had a 2021 discussion with him. Even Trump bashing last night, host Stephen Colbert put Biden on blast.
I think this could be proof that Joe Biden has the ability to communicate with the dead world leaders. He's so old, he straddles the line between this world and the next. That means, follow me, that means Biden can pierce the veil of mortality to assemble the greatest team to tackle any problem.
The White House ducked and tried to explain.
In Las Vegas, he told a story about recently talking to a French president who died in 1996.
I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole with you, sir.
What is
We're
the
going to
rabbit hole?
Go ahead.
He said
go
he
ahead.
talked to Mitterrand.
Go ahead.
The president, in his public remarks, talked about having conversations in 2021 with European leaders who were deceased at that time.
What he was trying to say, look, many people, elected officials, many people, they can misspeak sometimes, right?
So, David, I want to meet you right where you are with the word gaffes, because that seems to be what you see all of it as. An NBC poll taken before any of the most recent moments found more than 3/4 of voters have major or moderate concerns about Biden's mental and physical fitness. That includes 54% of Democrats. David Carlucci.
Yeah, well, concerns are one thing, and then going and voting for someone is another. And I think actions speak louder than words, and that's what we've got to focus on here. We can take some snippets, we could take some parts of the 388-page report, we could take a few gaffes and misspoken words. That happens to the best of us. It happens to all of us. We all misspeak occasionally. And what matters is, what are you actually doing? Are you walking the walk? Or are you just talking? Are you talking more than you should?
Well,
were
you comfortable
more?
with what he said he's doing with regard to Israel?
God.
He says Israel's response to a terror attack on October 7th.
He was choosing his words very
over
carefully.
The top. Are you comfortable with that as the foreign policy, telling our strongest ally in the Middle East? Because if you want to play the game of policy, he put some of that out there, too. Are you okay with that? Is Israel over the top? Is that where you are?
Well, no, I think he was choosing his words very carefully.
Answer?
But we have to look at this in the entirety of what the President Biden's administration is doing. He's making progress, and that's what matters.
But I gave you one that was really important, and you disagreed with it.
Well, no, do I agree with every single thing that President Biden does?
I'm going to go to, that's a pretty important thing.
Overall, yes.
David, you should at least be honest enough with the American people. This is the #1 cable network in the country. A lot of people are watching you right now. And say, you know what, maybe there's considerations that need to take place. Maybe there is a need to invoke the 25th Amendment. Maybe Democrats can be more honest about where Joe Biden is. I don't wish any harm on the president. I pray for the president. I pray for this country. But this man has put us in a terrible set of circumstances, and no one, including his wife, Jill Biden, will say, you know what, enough is enough. They need to get him out of office. He's endangering the lives of all of us in the current conditions that he is in. And David, the fact that you won't even say that says a whole lot about you, and I say that respectfully.
I disagree with you. That's why, because we can have an honest conversation and a
Absolutely,
discussion.
you can disagree.
But voters ultimately decide, and that's why President Biden's going to win re-election.
Absolutely, you can disagree, and we will see what happens. I just wanted to show you the bevy of receipts, and it's only an hour show. I have many more too. Both gentlemen, great conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.